into how you can get paid before you even build your business. That sounds like the dream for everyone. So we got a good workshop coming our way, because most founders do it backwards. They build first, then hope customers show up. But Parker Olson flipped the script. After one startup drained his time and money, he tried something new. He picked an early idea, sold a rough version before building, and turned it into a 6-figure revenue business in just 12 months, which is so amazing. Tonight, he's sharing the exact playbook so you can sell before you build. And this is just part one. Stick around, because after the masterclass, we will be going into a private session in the UpFlip Academy, where Parker will walk you through 2 free downloadable resources that you can apply with his technique. It'll be the awkward ask script, 20 high signal interview questions. You're not going to want to miss it. I will put the links down below. So let's bring Parker in. Parker, thank you so much for being here. I love sales. You've been on the podcast. You were a great guest. So super, super excited to have you on and lead this.
Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Was super excited to get invited back. I had some other people reach out from our podcast and talk about kind of this exact topic. I know it looks a little clickbaity, but there's definitely a lot of value here that I wish I had learned, like, I don't know, 5, 10 years ago when I was first kind of getting into the game. So I'm stoked to be talking about it.
Yeah, it's going to be so good. And everyone, once you're done with this and once we're done with the Academy, go check out the podcast episode with Parker. I'm going to self-promo that one because Parker was so good. And he talks about this more. But yeah, super excited to dive into this one.
Cool. Well, I'll hop in. Cool. As Ryan mentioned, my name is Parker. I'm the co-founder of a company called PodPitch. We basically help get you placed on podcasts, and I'll be talking a little bit about that today, and talking about some other business ventures, that I've worked on, and how I got to the point where I finally feel a bit more confident starting businesses. I've wasted a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, sweat, tears, all the above, in kind of chasing the wrong problems. And I want to talk a little bit today about hopefully saving you from chasing the wrong problems. So we're going to get into that. And yeah, if anyone's curious to check out PodPitch, our website is podpitch.com. If you go to podpitch.com/upflip, we have kind of a sweet little promo for viewers. And I think Ryan will share that link on the live. So we'll kind of get into it. So yeah, feel free to be dropping questions in. I'd rather have this be super interactive, and I'll be kind of walking through everything of really how you can ask the right questions to collect real dollars from real people before spending hours, if not years, of your time on something. So yeah, let's kind of jump in. Ryan, anything else from you before I hop in?
No, I'm super excited for this.
Okay.
Great podcast guest. So yeah, excited to get some more information from you. I've used some of the techniques you did on the last episode. So excited for
Cool.
this.
Cool. Well, let's hop in. Cool. So just a little high level. Yeah. So I mentioned PodPitch. We grew super fast. Just a little, like, I wish I had a graph prepared for this. But in the early days when we were like trying to figure out product market fit, right? We were getting feedback and we weren't selling anything. And then as soon as we started asking, basically people to pay before we built the product, we realized very, very quickly what people actually wanted and what they were really willing to pay for. And I still remember the first person that paid us over a phone call. Shout out Jordan Peterson. She'll forever be in my heart. Where finally we got to a call, and I said, why wouldn't you pay for this right now? And I still remember she pulled her credit card out. And from that day forward, PodPitch really took off, really, really like crazy. Like that was just like how we found product market fit. And I'm going to talk to you today exactly how to do that with your own concepts, own ideas. Really tactical playbook on just like how do you get from 0 to 0.0001, which is AKA real revenue in the door. It's super easy to say, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm starting a company, I have a great idea, and it's also really easy to never collect any revenue from that, which is ultimately what fuels the business. So we're going to be touching on that today. Like I said, drop comments in the chat. Ryan will also link to our website if you guys want to check out PodPitch. It's basically a tool. It will help automate all the entire process of really you getting featured on podcasts, such as me getting featured on the UpFlip podcast originally. Shout out PodPitch. So cool. Let's kind of jump in. I'm going to head to the next screen. So just a little background. Man, I've been a lot of different places. So the very first business I worked on, it was a huge passion project. That's how a lot of people get into entrepreneurship. I'm sure a lot of viewers here are thinking, hey, you know, I have this great idea because I've experienced this thing, or I'm really passionate about health, right? That's what really started it for me. So I actually spent 18 months trying different nutritional regimens, like was dieting, right? It was vegan for 30 days, vegetarian for 30 days, all these things. And I became so compelled about health and nutrition that I was like, F it, I'm going to start this food company. I'm going to save the world. Everything's going to be great. Everybody's going to love my idea. And I actually moved into a tent into my backyard for 2 years, threw out my bed, and I moved desks in there. We had interns in there, and I was storing food product in there. It was a business called Forage. And so I did that for a couple years. Prior to that, I also grew a Twitter account to 750,000 followers in college. It's called Shit Your Parents Say. RIP, no longer exists. It was another just like fun little business venture. But when building Forage, I literally spent, 4 years on that project. We raised close to $1 million. I never paid myself a dollar. I never personally paid myself a dollar. I put tons of money into the business. And, when I look back on it, I'm really proud and happy about a lot of the lessons I learned. But if I had known what I know now, I probably would not have spent that much time, and I probably would be a lot further in my own career. So I hope to help you with that today. And yeah, just a little bit more on Forage. So it was a health food company. We sold really bags of granola. We got into close to 1,000 stores, and that's just what I thought you were supposed to do. You get into stores, you sell your product. The reality is that we did not have product market fit. And I'll touch on that in a few minutes. And really what that I ultimately learned about was what we were building was a vitamin, not a pain pill. And I talk a little bit about this on the podcast episode, but if you're trying to build a business and you're not familiar with the vitamin versus pain pill paradigm, it's really important. And I think it's a very good question to ask yourself and be really, really honest with yourself about. A vitamin is something that is helpful. It's a nice to have, right? I primarily serve people in the public relations area. I look at a lot of vitamins in that industry, such as like media monitoring tools, like tools that allow people to look and understand what's being talked about in the world. That is a vitamin. That's a nice to have. A PR professional does not need that to complete their job every single day, make their clients happy, and ultimately drive revenue for their business. That is what Forage was. Forage was a health food company. It helped people get medicinal mushrooms into their diet, something that not a lot of people knew about. And it was really more of this just like, oh, that would be nice to have, but I'm not willing to pay for it kind of deal. And that's what you run into in a lot of these vitamin type businesses. And during the Q&A, if people wanna throw out their ideas, I'd be happy to give you my 2 cents on whether it is a vitamin or a pain pill. Now, let's think pain pills. Pain pills solve real jobs, real pain, like pain that, somebody may spend 10 hours doing something that they have to do for their job, or they have to do to, make it to work on time, or actually feel like a normal human. Those are pain pills, things that solve real problems for customers. Forage, which was a health food company, RIP, and had medicinal mushrooms, that wasn't solving any real problems. It was just hey, medicinal mushrooms can do great things for your diet. I did not understand the paradigm of pain pill versus vitamin, and if I could go back, I wish I could drill that into my own head, and I can guarantee I will never start a business ever again that is a vitamin, not a pain pill. I cannot overemphasize this just super early on. Pain pill over vitamin. Really quick, Ryan, before we move on from that point, do you think that it makes sense how I explained kind of the pain pill versus vitamin paradigm?
It's so funny, Parker, because you talked about this on the podcast, and I'm doing like my own thing, of course, with spacebar visuals. But there's so many times where I'm like, I'll think, you're an entrepreneur. The people listening are entrepreneurs. We all just have like business ideas. Literally, I find myself being like, well, is that a pain pill or is that a vitamin? Like that, like truly has like stuck with me. So yes, makes 100% sense to me on that.
Okay,
it's such a good metaphor, or whatever.
Cool. Yeah, it's so important, and it's so easy. You think you have a good idea, you can see everything come into place, but like being honest with yourself about your own business ideas is one of the hardest things you can do, but it's one of the most important things you can do before getting started. So just a little background on me. I also lived out of a van for close to a year. I lived on a sailboat, was wrongfully arrested for a felony. Lots of good things you can find in other podcast episodes that we won't necessarily jump into today. Kind of moving forward, this is really going to be the core of today's session, and I want to spend some time on this, and I'll get into some intimate details here. Really early on, kind of in our process with PodPitch, my co-founder and I, Neil Schulman, what we were building was we basically had built one of the largest podcast databases, and we thought, could have a lot of interesting uses. There's ways that AI can go through the database to help build lists. And really, how the business really came to be is because I built it for myself in the very beginning. So, rewind 3 years ago, and I was working on Forage, and I was living out of a tent and doing these interesting things and going on podcasts, and I saw a lot of really interesting business opportunities from that. Like, people would listen to my podcast, they'd reach out. It ended up getting me a job with a private equity company where I ended up being, kind of the co-CEO of a few of their companies. So I decided, hey, I want to go on more podcasts, and I built the first version of our tool. But built the first version, used it for myself, and we decided, okay, this solves a real pain point of people who want to go on podcasts. But how do we now take that concept of what we believe to be a pain pill and actually sell it, right? We have no money. We didn't raise any money. Neil and I think at the very end of the day, each only put a couple $1,000s into the business. And early on, what we started to do was we started to just DM people on LinkedIn who we thought had this real pain point. So we were DMing founders, we were DMing small business owners, entrepreneurs, and then also people who worked in public relations. And what we found is what our tool did, which was, sort of building short lists of podcasts that would be most relevant to reach out to go be a guest on, and then also sending emails to them. That was part of a PR professional's job. And really early on, when we were talking about this idea with PR professionals, everybody says the same thing. And if you're building your own business, you're going to hear this all the time. Everybody would say, oh, wow, that's such a cool idea. Like, we're definitely interested in it. And you need a reality check. Everybody who you tell your idea to is going to be nice for the most part. And they're all going to say, great idea. Oh my God, this would be so helpful. We love this idea. This is going to be really cool. And the reality is that most people just don't want to burst your bubble. And most people, some people might care. Some people might actually think it's cool. But when people come to you and they have ideas and they can see that you are just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, most people are generally just going to be nice. So we realized that. I mean, we probably spent 2-3 months meeting with, we probably met with 200-300 people over that, just from DMing people on LinkedIn and saying, hey, this is what we think we're building. We think it could be really helpful for you. Would you take 15 minutes, give us some feedback? And really for 2-3 months, we would get off these calls and it would be exciting. We'd be like, wow, like, people say they like this, people say they want this, we're on to something. And after 3 months of nobody saying, yeah, we'll pay you for it, we'll give you your money, we were sort of stumped. Like, we were kind of like, damn, like, how can everybody say that they like this, they like this product, they like, our solution, but nobody's giving us money? Like what is breaking down there? And again, we come back to the reality, like, people are just nice. And so finally we came up with this script where I still remember I would DM somebody and I'd say, look, this isn't a sales call. I have literally nothing to sell. Like, we think we're onto something really cool. Can you take 15 minutes? I'll show it to you. And for the most part, that converts decently well. I think you'll find people are pretty willing to help and give feedback and are interested. And when I would get on the beginning of these calls, I would say, look, I'm going to show you and tell you about what I have. I think it could be really cool for you. And then I might ask you, like, kind of an uncomfortable question. And I would preface that sometimes with people. I'd be like, look, like, I might ask you an awkward question. Like, I hope that's okay. And everyone kind of chuckles and they're kind of like, okay, yeah. And we'd go through it and it was the same old, right? I would show somebody the tool, and what our tool was at the time was you could plug in some keywords and it would generate a list of the most relevant podcasts. And that's what we thought people in PR really needed, was a way to build these lists of podcast outlets, media lists. But nobody was paying us. So then we just started asking. It was like, we'd get to the end, somebody would be like, yeah, this is really cool. And I finally was like, would you pay for this right now? And you kind of, you give them the straight question. You're like, look, like I said, like this isn't a sales call, but like, if you wouldn't pay for this right now, I need to understand why, or else I'm going to continue to spend my time getting on these calls, asking people giving me positive feedback and not paying me. And what we started to hear was people would say, well, it's really cool, but I already have something that does this job. And I'd say, okay, well, okay, it sounds like you're working with another tool. Maybe our tool could do it incrementally better, which is why people thought it was cool, but they're not willing to go out of their way to pay for that. And so then, we'd take it a step further and we'd say, okay, well, if you already have something that does this, like what would this have to do? Or like what would need to change for you to actually say yes, for you to literally take out your credit card and pay right now? And as a side note, I know that sounds sort of invasive, but like it is what is required to get to building a business, and most people kind of enjoyed the refreshingness of it. I found very very few people were offended at all, and we started to understand, and literally within 7 days after spending 3 months of going through these interviews, like getting good feedback, kind of continuing to like refine it, build out more wireframes, build out the product a little bit. Within 1 week, we got our first paying customer. And what we discovered in that 1 week of asking people, like, why will you not pay for this right now? We discovered that people actually wanted the tool to draft and send the emails to the podcast, which we actually had already built. We already understood. We just weren't hearing that in our initial feedback sessions. Nobody was talking about that. And it was really this question of forcing somebody to say, hey, why will you not take out your credit card right now? You tell me you like it, but you won't pay me. So where is that gap? And that was such a game changer for me. I just as a slight aside, which I really appreciated, I interviewed a candidate for a position earlier today, and he pulled that on me. We got to the end of the interview, and he's like, okay, so like I have to ask you, like, why won't you hire me right now? And I was like, God damn, that was such a good question. And I told him, I was like, look, well, I have to see you perform this really, really well. And I need my co-founder to sign off that like that he also thinks you'd be awesome for this role. And he's like, great. Now that I know that, I'm going to go. And if I go on to a second interview, then I know that if I do that and I perform this one task really well, I will come back to you and I will ask you, why will you not hire me right now? And I just love that. And Ryan, I know you had mentioned that like you had incorporated that a little bit. Have you been doing some of this, or what does that look like on your end?
I don't feel like I'm gutsy enough to do this, but like as an entrepreneur, like I feel like I need to just kind of like put my boots on and actually do it. It's such a great it's a great playbook as you're giving it to us right here, because it like really cuts through the noise of like why not? Like why would you not actually pay me like right now to do it? I think this is a phenomenal way to like actually validate a business idea, and even like past validating a business idea, I think this is just a great sales question in general. Like, would you pay for this right now? You don't even have to be validating a business idea. Listeners, if you're like going door knocking for your power washing company, let's say, knock on the door. If they're interested, would you pay me right now? I think that's a really easy action step that you listeners can take like right now to get started on a company. I think that's phenomenal advice right there.
Yeah, and there's something that isn't outlined here verbatim, but I found to be really helpful, and I think more helpful for me than anything else, which was prefacing the question. Like, if we went through this sort of 15-minute feedback and it all looks good, like I feel awkward asking that question. Don't get me wrong; it's not like I feel fucking great about that, but I would preface it. I'd say, look, like, do you mind? I would ask for permission. I would say, do you mind if I ask you an uncomfortable question? And they kind of awkwardly chuckle, and everyone said yes. And then I'd pull it out and I'd be like, look, I need to understand, as somebody who is spending all of my time, effort, money, resources on trying to build a business, like why you will not open up your wallet, pull out your credit card and input your credit card numbers into the Stripe checkout link right now. And I swear, I mean, we spent 3 months going through the process of thinking we had a good idea, people telling us we had a good idea, telling us we were solving a real pain point, and having zero revenue. And at the end of the day, like, you need revenue to have a real business, and you need revenue to grow a business. And that is how businesses work. That people transact with dollars to solve real problems. So yeah, I just cannot harp on that enough, where it was 3 months of sort of like churn and time wasted to literally 7 days of really building like a pretty just like really basic product. Like we were not doing much product development at all. And Jordan Pallinson, I wish I had texted her before this live. I still remember she goes, when I asked her, I said, hey, I have to ask you a pretty uncomfortable question, or do you mind? And she was like, of course not. And I said, what would make you pay for this right now? And she goes, I'd pay for it right now. And she pulled out her credit card, she filled out the Stripe link, and she paid on the spot. And we went back and we were like, okay, we're on to something. And that's how it started for us.
That is such a great story right there to actually like add like so much merit to it at all. Yeah, that's really good there. I mean, do your sales rep, like everyone's trained to say this is like the secret sauce for you?
Well, so fair question. We no longer use this playbook because now what we're offering, like we've hit product market fit where we know and we get into a
Mm-hmm.
call, what we're selling is exactly what people need. So
Mm.
like once we are able to validate it, I mean, we would ask people why won't you pay for this right now until we probably had, man, 50 to 100 customers. And then once we had
Amazing.
50 to 100 customers, for us it was like, okay, we now know, like we don't have to ask this anymore because people are willing to pay right there because of what we're offering is serving the market really really well.
Yeah. And speaking of what they're offering, we're going to drop the link down below right now of exactly PodPitch and the offer that they have for UpFlip viewers. So I'm going to drop that link right now for everyone to go check out as well.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'll kind of slide in. So let's keep. Oh, cool. We're on the Q&A, so this is perfect. So yeah, Brian, I'll kind of let you take the lead and see if folks have any questions. And I'm happy to talk about anything, but really want to help people like get from again, it's getting from 0 to 0.0001, aka real money from real customers.
Yeah. Viewers, drop your questions in the chat right now. We're gonna start to get these answered. But Parker, like first question for you, like if someone was gonna go take that first step and they're like, man, like I kind of have a business idea, I kind of know what I want to do here. Like, what actual advice would you give to them? Would we go to talk to 10
Yep.
people, or what? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, step number one, first of all, ask yourself honestly, is it a pain pill or is it a vitamin? If it's a vitamin, I would strongly recommend against pursuing it. Or figure out how is this a pill or is this a pain pill for certain types of people? Step number two, determine who those people are. Step number three, go onto LinkedIn, spend half an hour, find those people, and send them a DM. Don't send them some like well-crafted automated DM that looks like all other DMs in the LinkedIn realm. I would slide into people's DMs using, lowercase words, some spelling mistakes, quickly messaging them, and people can tell when it's really you as an individual saying, look, I'm working on something that I think you'd find really cool. I think it would solve, I think it could solve a pain point for you, but I need to understand that. Can you give me 15 minutes of your time?
Mm. Yeah, I feel like honestly, like the lower casing of letters is like a great way to like get around. There's so many automated messages now, so make it human at least like a little bit. I think is like a phenomenal advice for people to actually get to the LinkedIn DMs, which can be like very spammy now, but it's a great way to get your first like few business ideas validated.
Yeah. And just a note on that, just while some additional questions are coming in. I mean, so PodPitch, right? What we ultimately do, we help users identify and email podcasts to really ultimately get them interviewed on the show. Our users have emailed podcasts close to 1 million times. We have all the data on like what's being responded to, what's not being responded to. Full stop, lowercase subject lines over email perform way better than like professional case cap emails. So there is being scrappy wins in a lot of instances.
So good. Listeners, drop questions down below. I don't see any right now, so let's keep going. I know we have another slide, though, for Q&A. So listeners, start dropping those questions down below, and we'll keep going.
Cool. So the other thing that I want to talk about here, and I didn't explicitly talk too much about it just when I was going over sort of like asking somebody to pay right now, but when you're going through that 15-minute interview, like you want to get down to really sort of like nitty gritty understanding. If you're really solving like a real pain point, oftentimes it is something that somebody's already trying to solve. So for us, like what we were trying to do or what we would ask people is, okay, you are already trying to pitch podcasts, aka find podcasts, reach out to them and get somebody placed on an interview. What are you doing today to do that? And I would ask people to share their screens. I would ask people to literally like tell me line by line, and I would cut them off if they were not being detailed enough. Like you want to understand what people are doing today to try and solve that existing problem. And so for us, what we found is most people are going to Google and they're Googling, top entrepreneurship podcasts. And then they're either finding a list or they're finding the podcasts that rank the highest. They're clicking on them. They're listening to like a little bit of each episode. They're kind of like searching around on the website or on social media to try and find an email. And then from there, they're opening up their email. They're listening to a bit of an episode to write like a personalized intro to say, hey, Ryan, I know you talked about this on your recent episode. That was super cool. here's why I'm reaching out. And then they would spend 10 or 15 minutes writing an email to them.
Mm.
With that knowledge in hand, when I could finally come back and say, hey, we have a solution where our tool will research and identify the most relevant podcasts for you to reach out to, and then it will draft and send the emails on your behalf. For them, that person just went from this entire convoluted manual process to, wow, PodPitch can do 80% of that in 15 seconds. And then, let me show you. And I still give demos of our product every single day, and people's minds are blown. Like, people are like, oh my God, this is going to save me so much time, so much effort. Like, you have no idea. We've had multiple people tell us in the past couple of weeks how our tool has like been their best investment of the year, like has truly transformed their business, like really, really like pretty earth shattering types of commentary. And that all stemmed from really early on, just like understanding that really intimate pain point, like how somebody's solving it today and what would make somebody pay money for a solution today as well.
Yeah, a question that comes to mind for me is like, does every business need this validation? Are there any businesses where you're like, you don't really need to go test? Do any like come to mind, or like, do you think every business should have some sort of customer discovery?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think there's lots of different businesses you could start, right? You could go and open up a laundromat, right? And if there's 50 other laundromats and they have existing customers, like people need to pay for laundromats, and that's probably a different sort of equation to determine if you should open up that laundromat. I think primarily what I'm referencing here probably is more around software, because it's more like on the screen solving a problem that is maybe manually done today. But yeah, I think that's a super fair question. And probably for businesses where you're sort of like copying a playbook, copying something that's already being done in the market, and you just think that like there's more capacity to ultimately be served, probably not as much. But with anything where like you're trying to solve a type of problem that is in a new way, yes, you would absolutely should be validating it.
Yeah, that's why I kind of go back and forth. Real quick side story here. I remember in college I was part of like Founders Club, and I had a really cool idea for a company. Won't get into all the details, but they were so like gun-ho on me like doing customer discovery. I was like, guys, like I know this idea will work, just like let me do it. Refused to do like any customer discovery. Got the lowest grade in the Founders Club class because of that reason. But it all just goes back, like, do you need to do customer discovery? I think definitely leans towards yes, but there could be instances where it's such a big industry where it'll work.
Yeah, and the other thing, and I didn't explicitly mention this earlier, but I actually built, so I like built sort of the first version of our product, just like using APIs, like stringing things together. It was really janky. It wasn't really any sort of software coding. It was just using free tools on the market. And there's so much opportunity today just with workflow automation tools, data collection tools, AI LLM tools to be solving age-old problems in new ways that is way more efficient and can save people a lot of time. And so, I guess when I approach this type of presentation, I'm thinking more about like types of solutions that can be solved today, primarily probably using software and AI.
Yeah, there's so many no-code tools out there where it really opens up for if someone wants to do a home service-based company, like you can build a software product on the side to support that like service-based industry. Yeah, there's just so many tools out there now, which is a great thing, but it can get space is very competitive, as you know, but it's all about standing
Totally.
out.
Last few things here just on interviewing, right? So intimately understanding how somebody is trying to solve the problem today and like what's involved, right? How much time, how much pain is somebody really feeling? And you can sense when somebody talks about it, how much pain they're feeling. You obviously want to listen. So like asking the right questions, you want somebody to go on a tangent, how I'm going on a tangent about like exactly what they're doing. The third one, this is sort of just a no-brainer that Ryan, are you recording any of your sales calls?
Parker, this is literally so timely. So we just got our storage limit in Google Workspace, so I had to upgrade to Gemini. Yeah. And so with Gemini now, I get to transcribe all of our sales meetings. I'm not kidding you. I feel so much more empowered. I now do like hyper personalized like video strategy calls because of it. I send now like a very detailed like executive summary, all with like the transcription and just ChatGPT. This is literally so time. I was talking about this today with my co-founder as well. Transcribing is the biggest key to sales calls.
Yeah, I wish I had a note taker following me around 24/7, 365 and transcribing everything going on in my life, because it is unbelievably valuable. But just in these discoveries, like, do not rely on your own cognitive human bias. Like, do not rely on your own note taking. Take a transcript and use an LLM to help analyze that transcript and really understand and help you organize your own thoughts and help you organize, okay, what exactly is the true pain that we're solving? Like what are we gathering about what people will actually pay us for? And the transcripts, they won't lie, right? Like the LLMs will help keep you honest. I think it's really easy when you're building a company and starting a company to have a lot of bias about what you believe to be true. And when people are not telling you something that you already believe, you're still just going to continue believing what you believe. So it really helps keep you honest and helps really just like categorize and collect information in a really succinct way.
Yeah, that is super. Like, I would recommend anyone right now go buy Gemini Fathom. There are 1,000 note takers out there. It is elevated our sales game by 10x within the past 2 weeks. I'm not even kidding. I love that you have this note on there, so that is so good.
It's such a ground ball. Okay, cool. The next thing I want to get into, and you know, this is a lot of like the pricing's really hard. I think I don't think pricing's easy. It's still something, you know, I think we talk a lot about internally at PodPitch. And so yes, pricing is primarily an experiment. So early on, like I can tell you the person that Jordan Pallinson, who first paid for PodPitch, she paid at what would that be, about 30% of what our current list price is. So like kind of a steal. You know, so like she really like for us, we probably could have offered 3x and she would have paid. So what we did was after she paid, the next person who like, you know, was like, I will pay for this right now. And then I'd be like, cool, you know, Jordan paid whatever, I don't know, $200. We'd say, okay, cool. You know, it's $300. And there's some really important things that I think are challenging about pricing, where whenever you start to talk pricing, it becomes awkward and it's really easy to break and like not want to offer a higher price, especially if you in your own mind know somebody else is paying something less, and it's really easy to crack and be like, well, actually I'll discount it for you, or you know, actually let me give you a lower price. There's a lot of that has to do with confidence. And I really like Hormozy's approach about sort of backing into pricing and helping have pricing conversations, especially about bigger dollar amounts. So you know, if you can figure, hey, if you're spending, you know, 10 hours a week going through this manual process, and you know, you can even ask somebody, how much do you think an hour of your time is worth? And then you put it on them to help back into a price, right? Maybe somebody says, well, you know, I think my time's worth $100 an hour. And you'd say, well, okay, well, man, if we could remove 9 hours of this time, we're sort of giving you back $900 in value. You know, what if we charge a third of that? You know, okay, you know, like the price of this is $300, right? It helps put into somebody else's perspective of like, wow, that might actually be a great deal. So using more like value-based pricing rather than cost-based pricing, especially in software, is definitely where you want to start from. You will know whether you're pricing too high or too low always based on someone's initial response after, you know, a relative sample size. I've quoted people early on. We wrongfully quoted somebody $1,000 a month for our service, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, of course." And we were like, "Oh, what?" Like this guy didn't blink an eye at spending $1,000 on our product, and we kind of like misquoted him. And so you really just want to spend a lot of time and like, hey, look, if you're getting, you know, 80% of people saying yes at a certain price, raise your price and then see what your conversion rate goes to. And so you'll really get an understanding of like what the market's willingness to pay is by adjusting that number, and over time sort of like seeing, okay, where do we see like the price is high enough that it justifies the value, and you know, it's healthy enough for our business model, but we're also still converting at a really high rate.
I had two things on this. One, I remember our pricing when we just started, like a, you know, don't talk too much about us, but like a 10 video package for Space Star Visuals was like $700. Now a 5 video package for us is $12,000. Like it's insane how much you lower your price. A good framework that I like to go off of now, if I give advice to people that are starting their own business, is whatever you're going to charge when you're just starting off, increase that by like 30%. Like, because that's what you're truly worth, but you're just underselling yourself at first. So really good stuff there.
Yeah, everybody, you always undersell yourself. So great call out. Yeah. This fourth bullet, I only find this to be more true, but everybody wants a discount. Everybody expects a discount. Everybody wants a discount. And I think especially like in software, like it's a lot easier to anchor somebody really high and then work down from there. But when you tell somebody a price, if they say immediately yes, you know you sort of underquoted them, and there's no way you can offer that person a higher price. You can always come down in price, but it's very, very hard to go up in price. So just something else I would say on that as well.
Yeah, I feel like you always like need to have like some sort of offer when you're when you're selling stuff now. Like everyone's always looking for the offer, always looking for the discount.
Always, yeah, and I guess I kind of respect it on some levels, and like it's I guess I in some levels am the same way, but I think it's human nature, right? If you come in, Ryan, you say, look, this is a $12,000 package, what do you cool, and I say, hey, blah blah blah, I'm not so sure, and then maybe you reach out in 2 weeks, you're like, hey, it's the end of the month, we're gonna do like a 30% off promo, and maybe that's your whole sales plan the whole time. And now that new price looks great to me, and you say, hey, this is only an end of month promo, like that is how pricing works, and that is how sales strategies work at really big corporations. You look at any major software company, and in Q4, I mean, they're just discounting the crap out of everything because they're trying to get their numbers up, and they have the margin room to do it. Yeah, cool. Anything else on pricing you think we should cover? Or?
A question that I wanted to ask you, kind of hit on it, is like, how do you know when you're priced right? Are you looking for that conversion rate, or what other metrics are you looking for? And I asked this question because we were previously at like a 42% win rate, and I was just like, that's like a little like too high, honestly. It sounds great, of course, but it's a signal that you're underpricing your services. So we intentionally brought up our pricing. That did bring our win rate down, which I'm 100% okay with. What other metrics are you looking for to like really validate your pricing?
Yeah. I think there's probably some short term metrics, and there's some long term metrics. So thinking more short term, yeah, of course, it's like conversion rate and getting a feel. Okay, how many people are saying yes, how many people are saying no. There's also an understanding for what else exists on the market. So like in our instance, right, people can solve the problem of pitching podcasts a few different ways. Our tool will do the most work for you, but there are other tools out there, and we know how much people are going to pay for those tools. So it's another way to think about pricing, is just like competitive based pricing. But the other long term sort of metrics I think that are important to think about are also churn, lifetime value, retention, right? Any really strong business model is going to have strong retention. If you're listening to this and you want to build a business to go sell your business, and all of your customers leave you after 2 months, like you will never ever be able to sell that business, because it's too high of churn. And so sometimes even if you get people to sign on at a super high price, but all of those people are churning really fast, that is a red flag, right? People say, wow, you sold me on all this value, and I'm not sure the value really lives up to the price point on a long-term basis, and I don't want to continue doing business. That probably means you're charging too much money. I feel like there isn't like a magic wand way to really understand this, and it's really just understanding what your cost structure is, right? How much you really need to be pricing to be making money and to be a viable business. And then also pricing it so you can continue to charge your customers over time, and they'll continue to come back over and over and over and over and over again. And other solutions in the market will not make as much sense as your own solution.
You talk about selling your business. Is that the end goal of PodPitch?
I don't know. It's hard to say. It's definitely a possibility. But we'll see. Probably not anytime in the very immediate future.
I love it. I had to put you on the spot right there. I hate to put you on the spot right there, but I had to put you on the spot.
Hit me, dude. What would make me sell the business today? I don't know. That's the hard hitting question, Ryan.
Love it.
Cool. Well, cool. Let's move on. I know we're at another Q&A. I guess we can see if anybody has any questions, and if not, we could go into some of the scripts and stuff. But
cool. Yeah, and everyone, we are going to be doing a part 2 here. So we're going to head over to the UpFlip Academy right after this, and Parker's going to be walking us through some actual scripts, which I'm super excited for. So definitely get signed up for there. We do have a question. So this comes from just Gift. Love the name. Gift Sparkle in particular. This person wants to have their own product, but they can't decide on their goal. How would you help, direct someone in the right direction on like what they should be creating?
I guess when you say goal, how do you mean by that? Like goal of starting the business? Like I guess is there any more context from Gift Sparkle there?
Yeah, there's no other context. Gift Sparkle, if you want to drop that down below, that would be great. But let's just start out with general direction. I'm like, I want to start a product. I don't know where to begin. Does it go back to the pain pill, vitamin? What does it go back to?
Yeah, it's a good question. The easiest place, and a lot of people talk about this, is like what are current pain points that you feel today? I think there's so many hidden pain points in existing jobs today, right? Like everybody's a consumer and everybody wants to start in consumer, but there is a lot of money in business to business. So I always, if I were to go start another business, I would be looking at super niche businesses where there's a lot of people and they have money to spend to solve problems, and they're sort of being neglected by technology today, right? So think
Mm.
about antiquated type of business models. Um, like what? There's a guy I met the other day in New York, and I loved his business model. Super simple, and the actual market size is huge. So what he does is they just create like a singular platform to track all financial transactions for bodegas, like think like corner stores, where a lot of them are super low tech and just like kind of neglected. They're independently owned and operated. And he's just built this like really simple solution, really easy to use, where people can see like how much money they're making every day, like how much money they spent every day. And it's like there is nothing on the market that solves for that. And it was because his father owned a corner store, and he realized that like there were a lot of problems with running a corner store and really understanding cash flow. Um, and I'm trying to think anything else there before we get to Gift's question.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, Gift, we'll wait some more context there. Feel free to drop anything there. Parker, I wonder on this business idea by you. I heard it a while ago, but essentially, and I'm going to give this to everybody because honestly, I think I would be doing it if I didn't have other commitments. But essentially, it's like tech help for the elderly, where it's like $100 a month. If your grandparent needs tech help, give them a call. They'll come on over. $100 a month, reoccurring revenue. I think that's like such a stupidly great idea where it's literally costs nothing to do. You just need kind of the tech skills to do it.
Sure. Subscription based model, which is always good. And then yeah, probably like good discretionary income, large aging population that like is going to need help and doesn't understand the current AI technology space. I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's got some legs.
Yeah.
Somebody should snake your line on that.
Yeah, I think if you're listening to this, you just got a free business idea for you to take on. And if you do it, let us know. You might be featured on UpFlip.
Yes. Well, cool. Well, let's keep running, man. If there's no questions, no worries. Let's keep moving forward. Whoops. Cool. Track what matters. This is another good one. Really early in our business, what we started doing was we started doing weekly KPI reports. And I might, maybe we'll flash it up on the screen really quickly, just what our weekly KPI report looks like. But anything that gets tracked will get improved. So really like it can be hard to put KPIs down because you're like, oh, like why isn't that moving every single week? But I think it's a really surefire way to continue to make progress every single week. And maybe if you're tracking, hey, how many initial feedback conversations did I have this week? It will push you over the edge when you have to ask that awkward question of, will somebody give you money or not? Because at the end of the week, you're going to have to write down that number and see over time, is that trend getting sort of higher or lower or staying the same? But tracking weekly KPIs probably has been one of the biggest North Star items that has really helped our business just like continue to go in the right direction and not chase stupid things. We don't care about how many social followers we have or about how many LinkedIn impressions we get, right? Like our business, we look at, okay, how many new demos did we book for our tool, right? How many new customers did we convert this week? What's our conversion rate? Things like that, where we can see very, very concretely, like how is our sales funnel working? Because at the end of the day, that is what drives the business. Other KPIs we look at inside our application are like how many bugs came up, right? How many bugs were solved, right? We need to understand what is the quality of the customer experience. For the development team and our data team, like how big is our database today? How big is our database in 1 week, right? Like how is that changing over time? Because people come and use our tool for the database. We look at customer success metrics. So we look at, okay, how many of our existing customers did we chat with this week? How many of our existing customers did we meet with this week? How
Mm.
many of our existing customers have we not talked to or met with in the last 30 days, right? Like that is a red flag around customer support. So just different things that we currently track. And I think that changes over the lifespan of everybody's business, but it forces a really good hard look in the mirror for whatever stage you're at to think, if there's only one thing that improves every single week, like what does that need to be? And that should be the one thing that you're tracking every single week.
So good. Yeah, we're starting to do weekly tracking as well. And what gets measured, what gets tracked will be improved. That's a great quote. Parker, we actually have a question from Dina Feldman.
Sure.
It goes kind of go back to your vitamin product days, but do you think it's possible to build a brand with a vitamin product?
I certainly think it's possible. I just think it's really, really challenging. And it's one of those things where, like, you know, as an example, like, when I think about pain pill versus vitamin,
Mm-hmm.
when let's say like the economy goes bad, the first types of expenses that get cut are vitamins. People need to continue to do their job and solve pain points, and so like vitamins are sort of the like discretionary expense of sort of the like nice to have. And so to me, like vitamin type businesses are sort of rocky.
Mm-hmm.
And I originally first heard that phrase when I was raising money and was talking to a lot of people in like the venture capital space and the private equity space. And I loved it. Like people in the investment space were like, we simply will not invest in vitamin based businesses because they can be really challenging to sustain, especially in hard times. Because again, they're just not fundamental to like running a business, creating a business, doing a job. Think about yourself as an individual, right? Maybe you have a great job and you're getting paid lots of money. And so, okay, because of that, you have a subscription to the nice gym and you also go to yoga studio and you buy groceries from the nice grocery store. Well, okay, if maybe you lose your job, you're no longer going to be paying for that yoga studio. You're going to be going to like the discount grocery store. You're not going to be eating out as much. And all of a sudden, all of those sort of nice to have sort of vitamins for you get cut out of your budget because you no longer have the bandwidth to be paying for them. So do I think it's possible? Absolutely. Do I personally want to build a business in the vitamin space ever again? No, I've just been hurt too badly there. Good question.
Great answer as well there.
Um, cool.
Cool. And
Any
yeah,
any
listeners,
other? Yeah.
I'll just encourage listeners, do drop any more questions. We got about 12 minutes left before we wrap up here, and we're going to go over to the UpFlip Academy where Parker's going to give us some more resources, free resources. So sign up for the UpFlip Academy, and we'll hop in after that. But Parker, yeah, finish this off here.
Yeah. Just high level about that. Just some of the resources. Like I talked a little bit about it earlier, but like literally a document that breaks down like how to reach out to people really tactically who are in your ICP, like what to say, like what to ask them during calls. It just is maybe a piece of paper in your hand if it makes you feel more confident to actually go out and ask somebody, say, hey, what will make you pay for this right now. But yeah, let's recap this. For the love of God, test ideas before you spend money building them or lots of time. My co-founder and I joke, maybe more so, he jokes with me about a friend that he has where, 3 years ago his friend was working on a business idea and he's still working on the business idea, and he's still spending time and sort of, in maybe his own head, he's an entrepreneur, but like he's not asking the hard hitting questions. He's not really understanding like what can he build that will actually collect money. And so like you need to be asking the hard hitting questions, right? Like what are people going to be paying for at the end of the day, and what is actually worthwhile for you to spend your time on. Um, okay, cool, Dina. I'm also seeing your comment. Okay, great question. If I have unique tea blends that taste good, why wouldn't people buy it? Um, okay, cool, and I love it. Liz said sort of chiming in. Fair question. I think with especially in consumables, like my only concern about tea brands is like there's so many different tea brands. Like if you go to the average tea lover, like you should go ask them, hey, what would make you pay for my tea over another, and what would make that person be very, very loyal to buying your tea. In your own mind, it might be because that like you have unique tea blends, and I don't want to be harsh, but the reality is most people probably don't care. Like a lot of people buy consumables because they're convenient. Like I learned that the hard way, and I spent a lot of time, money, and effort learning that. But you could go ask them, right? Like maybe there's something there in the tea market that nobody else is doing, where if a tea solves some certain type of pain point, that person would continue to buy your tea forever, and that might be a really, really valuable business model. But I would really understand, like, somebody might buy it from you to be nice, but why would somebody pay for your product today, tomorrow, again, over and over and over any other tea brand at their disposal? And really understanding that would be really, really helpful, I think, for you. Just coming back to the recap, yeah, obviously listening more than you talk, right? Early on, understand how people are solving problems, like understanding how you can solve them better, and what people will honestly pay for. Listen to people, ask them the hard questions. Yes, and of course the fourth one, get paid. People will pay for things that they need solved. Full stop. They will. If they're not paying for it, like it is not solving a real enough pain point.
Super, super good. We got another question before we do drive over to the academy. That session starts in 9 minutes. It comes from Renee. I believe I'm saying that right. What's your number one advice to those who overanalyze everything and essentially fall into the category of failure to launch? Great question.
Yeah, good question. I would say like what was it called? Not
Analysis
it's like
paralysis?
yeah, like analysis
Paradox of
paralysis.
choice?
Yeah, it's very real. I still feel that some days. I'm just like, oh my god, there's so much to do. I can't do anything, right? Um, I would say like, look, take it one step at a time. I think for me, what I come back to is like go like write out everything that you possibly have to do, and write out like if there's only one thing you do today to move that ball forward, like what is that one thing going to be do, and get try to get one thing done every single day. I don't know where you are, and what you're maybe working on, or what you're most interested in. But number one, like I think everybody should sprint to getting to like who is who will pay for you for your product that is solving a real problem that is not being solved elsewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go there, like to have conversations to understand if you have a valid product. If you believe you have a valid product, see if people will pay you, right? Okay, people start to pay you. Okay, awesome. People are starting to pay you. How can you scale that out and continue to build a more robust product and find more people who are willing to pay you? Like, I think taking it step by step and really staying focused on revenue, is a good North Star. I wish, would be happy to chat more. I don't have a ton of context in terms of what you're working on, but if you can get one thing done every single day, like that's a win. Like, they can be very overwhelming, I think, especially when you're trying to start something new.
Mm-hmm. I think the hardest part about starting your first company is literally just like not knowing where to start and like taking that first step. I know before I launched my first company, it was always, I was an idea farm. Like, ask me a question, I'll have 30 ideas for like a business. It just, you have so many ideas, but you never actually get started. You just have to commit to like one thing and then take that first step. That first step is the hardest, but that just builds momentum, builds momentum, builds momentum. And that's ultimately how you get your first customer, by also asking the good questions you ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, like starting your company, like nobody really knows where they're starting, and every single company looks different. And
Mm-hmm.
like every single company has different ways of acquiring customers and different cost structures. And it's all unique. And I want Renee and others to know, like, there is no path for everybody out there. I would take every single piece of advice, including my own piece of advice, with a grain of salt. Like, there's a lot of bad advice out there. There really is. Again, it's why I like to come back to like money talks, like people who will pay you for what you are trying to solve for them. That is how you know like you are onto something very, very real, rather than somebody saying, wow, that's a great idea. Wow, I think that's going to be awesome.
Yeah. One of the best feelings you'll ever have as an entrepreneur is that first day you get someone to actually pay for your services. That's like a life-changing moment for every entrepreneur, I feel like, as you've talked about as well.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think I still have my first check from my first business somewhere.
There you go.
So
I love it.
cool.
Well, sweet. That is a wrap on this session, but the fun does not stop here, because we're going to jump over to the UpFlip Academy, where Parker's going to cover the awkward ass strip and 20 high signal interview questions. And so that's going to start here in 5 minutes. You guys can go to www.upflip.com/academy. gonna drop in the link, the chat right now, and sign up there, and we'll see you over there in 5 minutes or so.
Cool. See you, everyone.
Cool. We'll see you all over there. See you soon.